The art of listening and service recovery. Theo, are you listening to me?
I am today. I'm super excited. Of course, I'm listening because this is a topic that many of our listeners, many of my clients, they're always asking, Theo, how can we improve de escalation within our organization? So, this is just a really great topic for me today.
Well, let's talk about listening first of all, and then we'll get into service recovery and some examples of service recovery. And of course, the favorite acronym LEAP. We'll get into that as well. But listening, how do you know that you're doing effective listening? Better yet, what are ineffective ways of listening? I'll let you run it with that.
All right. When we're teaching de escalation, so often we'll ask people because we have a great listening self assessment, and we'll ask the group, how many of you feel that you're good listeners? Everybody's hand goes up. And then we do the self assessment. We find out that most people need a lot of work when it comes to listening. We do things like interrupting people, we do things like being distracted, giving advice before we need to give advice. There's so
Being
many
distracted,
things.
like being on your phone when somebody's talking to you, and you
Oh
hold
my
on,
God.
that type of stuff.
Yes. And then we wonder, why are they upset? Why did they blow up? Why are they livid? So listening is definitely foundational.
I get it. And active listening, being able to know that somebody's listening to you, because at times, even when I'm doing like an interview, sometimes you're thinking ahead of the question, or you think you know what's coming out the other person's mouth. So you have your interpretation. So being present, being in the moment when listening. And of course, being present. Another P word would be paraphrasing. That's a great tool.
Yeah, yeah. Let me go back for a moment to active listening. That is stellar because some people listen, but they're stoic. They're listening, but you don't get any body language, no demeanor to show that when you're complaining that they're actually internalizing it. So active listening, sometimes I have a tendency to do too much of it. We train people to just nod your head a bit to show people that you're engaged, you're interested, and that you care about what they're sharing with you. That's important. Then moving into paraphrasing, I must admit, the hardest thing for me, but so important in listening. The ultimate is listening, as you said, Doug, is being able to paraphrase the complaint that the person has issued. It would be something like saying, Mr. Doug, I apologize that that happened. And if I'm hearing correctly, what you're saying is that, we didn't get your order right. And then on top of that, we were late with getting a server to your table. And I just want to know that we apologize. We're going to try and figure out how we can rectify this for you today. And typically, the guests will either say, yes, that's exactly what I said, or either they'll say, no, that's not the problem at all.
Right.
What you want to hear is yes.
But getting the action resolved in a timely and efficient manner, obviously being it, but you got to determine what the problem is by listening. Now, how does one go? What are some of the best practices for resolving customer complaints?
Again, a great acronym. Many people know it. They've heard it before, the four-step service recovery process called LEAP. Now, let me just share first that there are many acronyms for service recovery. There's LEARN, which is a five-step service recovery process. There's CARE, there's RELATE. There's a whole bunch of great ones out there, but I myself like LEAP because it's very simple. We teach employees that when a customer comes to you with an issue that they need you to resolve, the first thing that you want to do is listen. That's the L in LEAP. Listen, do not interrupt. Allow the person to vent. Don't you know that 80% of the time, if you just let a customer vent, even though it takes a little extra time, they'll tell you exactly how they want the issue resolved. Venting they may say, I don't want anything done today. I don't want anything free. I just want people to know that this happened. Or it might be, I'm frustrated that this happened. And what I want is such and such. Sometimes we give away the storehouse when that wasn't even important to the customer because we didn't properly listen.
You didn't properly listen. You didn't assess the situation, because it goes back to what we talked about earlier. In your mind, you're interrupting, or you think you know the answer before the answer has been discovered. And being able to interrupt or jump the gun, it may be a totally different thing. Being present in the moment. I'll let you continue with the acronym, but it's just you kind of made me think about active listening, but
Mhm.
understanding what they're talking about without making a judgment before they talk about it.
So true. There's so many elements to the listening, right? The biggest one, grandma always said you have two ears and one mouth. Why? So that we listen more than we talk. And we have a tendency before the person can even finish venting the issue. Like you said, we're already thinking about how we're going to resolve it. And we blurt that out. And what we do sometimes by interrupting the person, it may come across to them as a form of disrespect. It may come across as you're distracted, you don't value them, you just want to hurry and rush them off. So listening and pausing and just giving them the space to vent whatever they need to say about that issue. I'm sure it's happened to you, Doug. It's happened to me many times when I've had a customer complain to me. If I just let them vent, at the end of the day, they end up apologizing. Theo, I'm so sorry. I know this was in your department. I know it's not your fault, but thank you so much for listening. I knew I could depend on you. I knew you're going to resolve this for me. And I haven't even said anything. I just listened.
You listened, but you were in the moment listening to them, being present to understand what their level of frustration could be. And maybe it is resolved by them venting. So it's a great thing. I know there's other parts to Leap where you talk about, being able to take action and produce. I'll let you expound on that a little bit more.
Yes. And listening transcends next into step 2. Step 1 is listen. Step 2 is to empathize. Empathize with the person. Could be apologize. I'm so sorry that happened. I apologize for the inconvenience. Thank you for your patience. Anything that you could say genuinely to help them know and connect that I'm there with you. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. And when they hear that, again, the person just melts. You let them vent. They're highly volatile, but you let them vent by listening. Then you empathize. Guess what? After that, you've got them in your corner.
Mm-hmm. And then after you empathize, then you want to resolve the problem or call to action. The action, the A in the word LEAP, the acronym.
Yes. So listen, empathize, ask, how can we resolve this for you? Sometimes they've already told you. So be careful. If you're listening, they've already told you. So that A can also be act. Act is, here's what we're going to do to resolve this for you based on what you've said, right? So A, listen, step 1, empathize, step 2, ask, step 3. If they've already told you, act on that. And step 4 is P, produce a solution to fix it with a sense of urgency right away. Because as we'll come to see, that it's more than just taking care of the problem, but it's also doing it with a sense of urgency so that they feel that you valued their issue enough that you took care of it right away.
Take care of it right away. You ask, have action, and produce in a timely and efficient manner. Speaking of being timely and efficient, I'm currently reading a book right now called What's in the Cards by Sherilyn Castleman. And she has a chapter, I believe it's chapter 14, dedicated to empathetic listening. And I just want to read one part of that definition of empathetic listening. Empathetic listening is when you refine your ear and become more closely attuned to your client's priorities and pain points. Try to put yourself in their position, internalize reality. Now, the point I want to talk about, internalize reality. Put yourself in that person's shoes. What is the reality of them with their complaint? Are they in a hurry? What's the context of their complaint? Was the bill wrong? Were they in a hurry? Was the food wrong? Was the product wrong? Was there a sense of rudeness? So I think there's more to just the actual problem. The context comes in about. So I think that was a good definition of empathetic listening, because you talk about empathy, you talk about listening, but you also talk about putting yourself in their shoes. Not sympathy, but empathy.
Love it. And in my book,
there you go.
The 6 principles of service excellence, we talk about the fact that you can provide the most exceptional service, but if it ends with inappropriate or incorrect service recovery, guess what? You've wiped the slate clean, and that loyalty of that customer is gone. Did you know that 51% of customers will never give you another chance? If they come in, they have an issue, a problem, and it's not properly rectified, they never come back. People walk with their feet and with their wallet. So proper service recovery is so right. And I think about the fact of, I always say that think about if you, like you said, were in that customer's shoes. I work with a lot of senior living communities with leadership in those type of industries. And a lot of times the issue is with a senior citizen that lives in the resident. And I always think about if your grandmother, if that was your grandmother that had that issue, if that was your mother, if that was you, how would you feel? That's the height of empathy, is to be able to think about how would I feel if I was in that situation. Don't minimalize. Sometimes people feel that, well, if I was in that issue, if I had that issue, it wouldn't be a big thing to me. Well, then that's you. But in most cases, everyone wants to be treated with value, with dignity and respect. And empathy definitely does that.
I agree 100%. And I encourage people to get a copy of your book, The Six Principles of Service Excellence. I have it right here, 100% on that. Now, a couple of things we talked about: listening, empathy. What are things that, well, you don't want to say? How do you escalate poor service? Some of the
And
phrases you see, interactions that don't come off too well.
you always just ask
Wordplay.
the right questions. I hate to interrupt you because I'm dying to answer. So I'm already interrupting, but you ask such great questions, Doug. And that's a great one. What do you not say?
Right.
Because sometimes people are so genuine in resolving the issue, but they say stuff that escalate. It's kind of like if a customer is complaining and you walk by, your employee, you walk by, they're complaining and they say, yo, can you help me with this? And you're like, that's not my job. That might be true, but that's going to escalate the issue. So you shouldn't say that. That's not my fault. Very true. That may be another department's fault, but that's going to escalate the issue. And we should not say that. Another thing, our policy is, oh my God, people don't care what the policy is when they have an issue. They want the issue resolved. Instead, you might say, well, what I can do is, instead of saying that's not my department, let me see if there's someone that I can find to help you. And another big one, Doug, tell me how you feel. And I've had this happen. I don't know if you have, but if you're complaining and they say, calm down, sir.
Yeah, they direct because it's almost like they position it that it's your fault, not their fault, or the
Yeah.
issue is on you. Sometimes you don't want that criticism brought upon you. The calm down, more support and encouragement. You want the problem resolved or the
And
issue
people are,
resolved.
and people will say, are you kidding me? Calm down. You haven't even seen me upset.
Yeah, you want to take it, we'll take it there. But the other extreme too, and it's what people say. You can say words like, it's not my problem, not my department, calm down. Okay, that's obviously negativity.
Mhm.
Then people overcompensate with, okay, my pleasure. Be happy to help you, Miss Jamerson. Be
Yes.
happy to help you, Miss Jones, but don't do a damn thing to get it resolved. So let's talk about the competency of being pleasant, but not being inefficient. You had a great way of saying that earlier.
It's important that you have both. It has to be a balance of competence and compassion. So I thought about that just now as you were saying that, competence and compassion, which means that I have the compassion, the empathy, I understand the issue that you're going through, but the competence is that I'm going to take care of it with a sense of urgency so that we resolve that. The quicker that you can resolve an issue to the customer's expectations, the greater chance that you will regain their loyalty and trust. So if you say, my pleasure, or I'm so sorry, we would say things like, I apologize. That must be frustrating. Thank you for your patience. But then you need to say, we're going to take care of this right away. And guess what? Have integrity. Do it. Keep your promises. Because if you're kind and nice, but you don't resolve the problem, you come across looking like a kind, sweet moron, a kind, sweet, incompetent employee. And no one wants that. I was training one time in the healthcare industry, and we were talking about de-escalation, and we were talking about words that you should use so that you can be empathic, compassionate, properly resolve that issue. And she said, do you want me to be kind and nice, or do you want me to save the person's life? I was like, are you kidding me? We're in a hospital.
Right.
I want both. People want both. I want compassion and empathy for the issue that I've brought to your attention. And I want expediency, competence, and efficiency in resolving it. Is that too much to ask?
No, it's 100%. You've got to have the total package, because if you just hide behind the smile, but you have no substance, results, or action,
There you go.
it diminishes the smile and it's more insulting, obviously. I mean, the other extreme is just being inconsiderate, rude, and putting the client or customer in an awkward situation, putting them on the defense. But again, diffuse things with a smile, but
Yeah.
back up that smile. And sometimes I brought up the idea of efficiency and getting
Mhm.
things done in a timely manner. If I'm impatient, I'm going to give
Yeah.
an example here. You brought a great example with the hospital and the doctor care there. I think like when I go and I pay a bill online, like my credit card bill, I can either pay it online or I can call on the phone. I get an automation system. Now, this is an extreme where I actually want the automation system. I
Mhm.
want to call in. I go press one to pay your bill, press two, double check the amount, and I'm done. I want to get it paid because I'm in a hurry. I called the other day and actually got a representative, and they wanted to walk me through the process. So I'm like, no, I just want to pay my bill and I want to get it done. That's the opposite of automation. The other extreme is I go to a self checkout line in the store, and I know you're going to elucidate. I have option. I can self checkout, which sometimes I do, or I want somebody to check my items out because I don't want to bag it. I have too many groceries to do that. So automation comes into play, but there's a play in that where service recovery and efficiency also come into play.
Think about how often, because I do that too. If I've got less than 10 items, I've been conditioned over the last 10 years to check myself out. Now I always wonder why we don't get an extra discount, being we've saved them a staff member. But I check myself out. But I will tell you, because I have calculated this, all right? 50% of the time when I go to self checkout, something happens with the technology that either it doesn't check something right, or I have to get the attendant. And it's all about when you have to get that attendant, the person that's standing in the area to help if anyone has an issue while they're self checking, all about the demeanor that they have when they walk up to you. I have had times when the person walks up to me, the self checkout attendant, because the something has gone wrong, and they'll fix it and walk off. Okay, well, that was efficiency, but guess what? There was a lot missing there. Okay, so there are times when people think that, why is she upset? I took care of it right away, but we still want to be kind, genuine, compassionate. Something like, good morning, ma'am. Let me take care of that for you right away. Boom, boom, boom. There, I apologize. You set. It's all, again, as we say, demeanor, things we say, all of that stuff. And then there are other times when I have an issue with the self checkout person does just the right thing that I'm expecting. So I don't want people to get efficiency mixed up. There are times when I want efficiency. You can look at somebody's body language and tell whether they don't want any small talk, hurry up, fix my thing, move on up the road, or whether they want to be ingratiated with some kindness at the time that you're trying to resolve the issue for them.
On that, exactly. I love how it could be. You got to read the body language. There's a lot of nonverbal cues, but if the attendant's coming up to me while I'm self checking out and I'm not in a rush, maybe
Mhm.
that's a teachable moment of what I'm doing wrong. So the next time I come in, I don't have to bug the attendant, or I'm more efficient. So instead of just boom, 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 there you go, get out next, as opposed to training me on how to do it.
Yes.
If you're reading right, because the attendants are usually pretty good at, hey, we have this one open, we have this one open. They're good at the greeting, but I do see that 50% of
Yes.
no follow up. They follow it up, but then there's an opportunity for service excellence beyond the ordinary. And
If I
there's
could
a
add one more thing to that too, Doug, because I shop all over. Sometimes I shop at Publix. Sometimes there's certain things I only want that only Publix has, and they have a self-check area too now. Sometimes I shop at Walmart. Most of Walmart's, they're almost 80% self-checkout. And sometimes I'm at Kroger. And what I've noticed is that for organizations, the biggest thing is inconsistency. Is that one day you're shopping and you get this great person that's full of personality and uses Leap. If you have a problem, listen, empathize, ask, produce. And then the next time you get somebody that either has an attitude problem, or they say, calm down, or that's not our fault. So it's so inconsistent. And a lot of the times, the training needs to be around the power of consistency. All right. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I mean, and just to summarize what we've talked about, obviously active listening,
Mm-hmm.
100%, being able to discover what the issue is, being present in the moment, have some service recovery plans in place, like the acronym of LEAP, and being able to be consistent with your own customer support and service recovery. Is there anything else that you want to add, Theo, before we wrap this up?
I think that's it. I'd like to leave leaders with this. There are 4 questions that you need to ask of your team. First, 1, are you a good listener? If not, then teach them the foundation of listening and how important and valuable that is. The next thing, do you have a process for effective service recovery? We talked about LEAP, but there are many other processes. We like LEAP because it's a simple 4-step process, but people need something that they can tune into right away to take care of those obvious customer problems with efficiency. The next thing is, what words should we not be saying because they escalate an already tense situation? Teaching your employees what not to say and giving them alternative phrases. And then just that last thing is empathy. It's so important that you put yourself in the person's shoes, so that you have empathy and compassion in resolving that issue with a sense of urgency.
I'm Doug Lehman, along with Theo Gilbert-Jamison. We thank you for spending time and social watching this video, and we look forward to talking about more topics in business, service excellence, service recovery, and whatever else comes to mind in this great world of business.